through the topic, which is understanding mental health. And I'll hand it over to him so that he can give us a brief of himself. He may want to talk about himself in a certain way. So I'll hand it over to Meshach. But before I hand it over to Meshach, so our session usually we run it, you do the discussion, then you give us a few minutes to ask questions from the viewers. So it's usually 1 hour where we sort of try to limit ourselves from 9 to 10. So as you're making the discussion, also people will be writing their questions on the chats, or they'll be raising up their hands through the once they raise their hand, they can ask the questions and we'll be sending them to you. And also this discussion is on YouTube. So for everyone who want to refer them to the discussion that we'll be having, it will be on YouTube, Linda Vijana. So Meshach, welcome and feel free here with us.
Asante. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Meshach Samson Minor. I come with a lot of titles, but only mention those that matter to the discussion we are having today. I am a counselor, a mental health advocate. I am an author of mental health books, and I do a lot of mental health awareness campaigns, both online and offline, because I also have a charity foundation by the name of Meshach Samson Foundation, whereby we offer free psychological counseling to the Kenyans who are not able to pay for counseling elsewhere. Personally, before I got to acquire those titles, I was a mental health victim, having been a depression victim for like 17 years without actually having any idea that I was sick. And by the time I came to realize that I was a victim, I had tried suicide 4 times. So I went through the process of counseling and a lot of therapy and a lot of things, life-changing behavior change. And then I decided to go back to class and study counseling. And that's why I'm here. And I'm so vocal when it comes to mental health awareness. If you go to Facebook, you can see my write-ups. I have a page, I have my profile by the name of Meshach Samson Minor, where I record videos, I write a lot of things, everything to do with mental health. I also have a YouTube channel by the name of Meshach Samson Online TV that I'm trying to build. It's a new channel. Having said that, I welcome you to this talk this evening. And I would like us to start with trying to understand what this giant we call mental health is. In simple words, mental health is health, as you call it. It is health. And it is health just like any other type of health. When you go to hospital with a headache, whoever you find, whether it's a clinical officer, a nurse, or a doctor, whoever you find first, will have to make a diagnosis and let you know exactly what you're suffering from. And because of that, they are trying to treat what they understand. But unfortunately, most people go to hospital because they have issues to do with mental health that they do not know. If you look at the report that was given by the Task Force on Mental Health that was constituted by the president a year ago, they were saying that about 30% of Kenyans usually go to hospital because of mental health issues, but they don't know. They are looking for other kinds of services, but exactly what they need to be looking at is mental health. Because when someone is suffering from a mental health complication, it tends to come with other symptoms that may be related to other diseases. So we tend to treat other issues that we think we know, and we overlook the mental health part of it. And this evening, I would like us to discuss those issues and most in relation to the youth, because I do believe this session was set up by people who are so passionate about the youth, Leader Vijana. So our discussion will be revolving around the youth. And if you look at the statistics in this country, the people who are committing suicide mostly are the people below 40 years. And when you lie below 40 years, you're coming very close to being called a youth. Personally, I am in that group of below 35. I am only 34. And I believe most, even the people who are online right now, are lying around that age. And this is the group of human beings that is seriously affected by mental health complications. Because one, we are at the peak of our lives when we are trying to shape the direction our lives should take. Some of us are in universities, others have just graduated, others have not joined, are waiting for some few things so that they can join universities and colleges and other tertiary institutions. So we have a lot of pressure to succeed in life. The society is expecting a lot from us. When you look at your family and your friends, all of them have some expectations on you. There's something they're expecting you should be able to do by the time some few years come, some few years go. And when you do not get to that level of achieving what the society is expecting you to achieve, they start getting frustrated and they are going to start pressuring you. So when the pressure comes, you start acting on the pressure and not on the ideas. One thing that is pushing young people so hard is academic excellence, forgetting that we are not all created to get to universities. We are not all created to become doctors and nurses. We are not all created to become lawyers. Not all of us even have a place in the universities, even in colleges. Some of us can excel so well in tertiary activities, in manual jobs, and they can make a living out of there. But the society does not want to understand that if all of us go to the university, to the colleges, and become office workers, some of these manual jobs will have nobody to do. For instance, we are all in our houses or wherever you live, and that house you are in right now was constructed by someone. The people who did a lot of work to make that building stand are not graduates. Because you need to understand that the architecture is a graduate. The engineer who comes slightly under the architecture is a graduate, and everybody else below them is not. And these people who are not graduates are the ones who are doing a lot. So when the society pushes you so hard to fit in the graduate level, we are overlooking the fact that there are other issues that don't need degrees, but they need skills. So this is a problem. Because when you don't get that degree, you start feeling like you are a failure. You start feeling frustrated, you start feeling useless, and everybody else is going to start taking you as useless as you take yourself. So academic excellence is one of those issues that are pushing young people to even become suicidal. Because so and so from your village is a graduate, and your parents don't want to understand that you are not the same people. The other thing that is causing trouble among young people is relationships. You are in a relationship with someone not because of love, but because of convenience. This person is offering something, and because of convenience, you are pushing yourself so hard to be with them. So when whatever was attaching you to them comes to an end or no longer excites you, the relationship that was supposed to be giving you fun, that was supposed to be giving you happiness, becomes tragic. We have seen it in the news and in the society, all over the place. People killing others because of so-called love triangles. we have had a generation of people that are so immoral, so irresponsible, and so unfaithful when it comes to holding relationships. This is a problem that we need to address as young people, because as much as we pretend to have a lot of energy, we need to understand that life is sacred. And the moment you mess around with that life, it stops being fun and starts being a disaster. So the second issue is that of irresponsibility in relationships. And we go to the third one is joblessness. Financial struggles come from being jobless or being in some kind of employment that is not satisfactory to your financial needs. When you cannot be able to feed yourself properly, when you realize that you cannot be able to pay your bills, it starts becoming trouble and becomes frustrating and sometimes loses meaning. So when the job you're doing right now cannot satisfy the need for money in your life, uh, it stops being exciting and starts feeling like a bother. But I want to give a disclaimer here. Life is only affordable as much as you make it. As young people, we have grown so deep into unnecessary competition, unnecessary expectations. We are trying to achieve everything right now, right here, without caring whether it is possible or not. When you get a job right now and you find someone who has been working for 16 years and you are trying to live a life that is close to them or better than them, my friend, you are being unrealistic. And somehow you are becoming irresponsible. As young people, sometimes we don't want to follow the procedure. We don't even want to know the process in which someone went through to get to wherever they are. What we want is results. And this is trouble because there is no way you're going to wake up one day and find yourself living in your own house, driving a vehicle, and having a lot of money to even do charity work if you have not struggled through some process. So it is good that we understand we are supposed to go through some procedure, through some process. We are supposed to go through some struggle for us to get to wherever we want. So if you escape the struggle part of life, you can be very sure you're not getting to the results. So as young people, we need to understand that there is a process for everything. If you want to eat some beautiful and tasty chapatis, you have to go through some process of cooking. There is no way you're going to unpack that packet of unga and get baked chapatis from there. What you get is raw material. You have to allow yourself go through the process of baking. And this is where young people don't want to listen. There is a process in everything. There is a process. And for you to succeed in anything, you must allow yourself go through the process. And this process includes a lot of pain, a lot of struggle, a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. So we need to be realistic in our goals and in our expectations. We need to be realistic. When you want something, first ask yourself, can I afford to go through the process in which this requires? Can I be able to afford the process in which this one requires? Whatever you want so much, ask yourself first, can I go through the process successfully? Can I be patient enough to go through the process? Because we have a problem of impatience. Young people are not patient enough. We are not patient enough. Something small happens and you're giving up. Something small is happening and you're already giving up. You're not asking yourself, those people who succeeded, those people who look like they are living a better life than you, what and what did they go through? And again, whatever you are struggling to achieve right now, is it the right time? Is it the right time? If you get it right now, is it going to serve the purpose? Is it going to help you become a better person or a bitter person? Because there is no way this life is going to become easier. Not today, not tomorrow. Actually, I usually say the only easy day was yesterday. Every other day coming to your life is becoming harder and harder. But that doesn't mean that we stop living. It only means we need to become better and smarter. We need to become smarter in the way we do things, in the way we address issues. So the issue of financial struggles, joblessness, unfaithfulness and dishonesty, irresponsible behavior, societal pressure, those are some of the issues that are causing trouble among young people. How would you tell that someone is struggling with a mental health issue? This is the second thing I would like to discuss this evening. How would you be able to tell that someone is struggling? One, anybody who is struggling with a mental health issue, whether it is basic stress, whether it is complex stress, whether it is depression, or any other kind of mental health disorder, they always tend to withdraw. And when I say withdraw, I mean running away from the normal life. Someone is struggling with something, and the best way they know how is to run away from people, run away from the normal society, run away from even the family and friends, run away from the job, become withdrawn and become solitary in a way that this person no longer associates with the people they used to associate with. This person no longer does what they used to do initially. If it was a hobby they had, they are withdrawing from it. They are withdrawing from the job. You can tell that someone is coming to work or someone is coming to school or someone is just looking unkept. Is a second issue. Looking unkept. Grooming becomes a problem. You can be able to tell that this person is struggling with something just by looking at how they are dressing, how they are taking care of themselves. For ladies, you are known to be very careful with the way you look. So when you realize one of your friends is starting to look like they are unkept, you should be able to tell that this is a person who is starting to struggle with something. You may not be a professional to know what exactly they are struggling with, but you can tell they are struggling with something. The other thing is somebody becomes tearful. They are looking like they just want to cry the next minute. You just having a conversation with someone and you look at them and they look tearful. They are not comfortable with life. They are so sad, so tearful, and very ready to cry any minute. Yeah. This one way you can tell that this person is starting to struggle with something. People who struggle with mental health complications always cry a lot. So somebody becoming tearful for no reason, you just realize one of your friends is starting to get tearful. This is a sign, a very clear sign that they are starting to struggle with something. So you need to take care of that. The other thing is they get angry very fast. Very, very fast. People who are struggling with something always tend to get angry at the slightest touch. So you realize that you have had a friend for long, a colleague, a relative, but these days they are behaving in a way that you don't even understand. They're starting to become tearful, they are starting to become angry, they are starting to look tired, they are starting to look withdrawn. They don't have a lot of stories like they used to. They are starting to look unkept. And every time you're having a conversation with them, they're starting to sound negative. Pessimism. Somebody is starting to sound negative, like they are starting to lose hope, like they are starting to accept the situation they are in like it is permanent. These are some of the pointers that you can get from someone who is starting to struggle with something. At the extreme of it, somebody starts becoming suicidal. So if someone is behaving in a way that suggests they are getting suicidal, it is a very clear sign of extreme struggle with mental health issues. These are the signs and symptoms. But you may ask, what if someone is showing all these signs? What are you supposed to do? I'm not a counselor. I am just a brother. What am I supposed to do? Someone is starting to struggle with these things. I can be able to tell they are struggling. What are you supposed to do? One warning I always give is, even if you understand that someone is struggling with a mental health issue, you cannot go to them straight and tell them, I think you, Meshach, you're struggling with depression. I think you're struggling with ABCD. You cannot do that. It is unacceptable, it is unethical, and it is also dangerous. You cannot go open it and tell someone, I think you are struggling with ABCD. I think you need counseling. I think you cannot do that. It is not acceptable. So what you do is you need to become one pillar in the broken life of that individual. One pillar that they feel they can lean on. You have to become a better friend, a better relative, a better brother. You need to become a better person in that human being's life. Always checking on them and encouraging them to have a conversation. Because one thing I know, some of the issues that people struggle with do not require professional therapy or medication by a psychiatrist. They just need someone who have a skill called active listening. If someone comes and tells you, I just feel like I need to talk, be there and let them talk. Let that person pour out whatever is in their heart, whatever is in their mind, let them talk. Because as they speak, most of the times they tell a story about a problem they have, what in counseling we call the current scenario. They're telling you a story, and along the line, they will actually suggest solutions without them knowing. Subconsciously, they will even suggest solutions. And you know, when they are speaking to you, they are also speaking to themselves. They are listening to what they are saying. So the moment a solution comes out of their mouth, they are going to understand, I think I have a solution to what is bothering me. So you need to give them a chance to talk. If someone is crying, you don't stop them. You cannot stop them. If someone is crying and they are telling you a story, you cannot stop them. Sometimes we see people pretending to be so strong when everybody else is expecting you to cry, is expecting you to be broken as a normal human being because of the issues that are going on around you. You're pretending to be strong. For instance, when someone is grieving because of death of a loved one, some people tend to make themselves busy so that they don't think about what happened. This is a disaster because it brings a problem we call delayed grief. Delayed grief. You're not going to cry when everybody else is crying. You will cry alone when everybody else has moved on. Because at some point, you will still cry. It is going to come late when nobody is understanding you, when nobody is even there to look at you, look after you, take care of you. Not only in grieving, when you're struggling with something and you're trying to make that bold face, you're trying to show that face of a strong person, even the person who could have identified an issue in you and helped you solve it will not be able to find out what you're going through, and they are going to leave you in that valley of sadness. They will move on, and you're going to start feeling like nobody cares. I know you have heard this from many people when they're telling you a story about their struggle and they say, nobody cares about what I go through. Nobody supports me. Nobody actually understands me. They are not understanding you because you are not showing the genuine part of you. You're making a face that is fake. In counseling, we call it masking. You're making a face that is fake, trying to hide the reality that is within you. The pain you're going through cannot be led by someone from your face because you are struggling so hard to keep a strong face. That is why you're saying nobody understands you. Exactly. They cannot understand you because they don't even know you're struggling with something. Again, even if you come and tell them this is what I'm going through, they will not understand you because when they look at you and they listen to you, these are two different human beings. So, for us to learn how to solve our issues, first we need to start with being genuine. Being genuine. And especially for men. Before you became a man, you were a human being. Can you forget being a man for a minute and exercise your feelings, your emotions as a human being? As a human being, we need to run away from toxic masculinity. This element the society teaches us that mwanaume hali, even my son who is 4 years old, I'm expected to train him to become hardy in a way that men don't cry, boys don't cry. This is wrong because you need to understand that there is mental health. This boy you're telling not to cry like a girl is a human being to start with. It's a human being. So you need to make them understand that when it comes to emotions, they have to be genuine. They have to be true to themselves. For us adults, even if you have been brought up in a society that is so toxic, you need to understand that times have changed, things have changed, and it is time for you to wake up and become genuine, become real with yourself, with your emotions. If you love someone, make them understand you love them. Be honest. If you're feeling uncomfortable because of something, make other people understand that you're feeling uncomfortable. Let them deal with you when they know genuinely Meshach is not comfortable with the conversation I am having, so it is time for me to stop because if I continue, I'm going to offend him. It is time as a society, as human beings, we stop taking every garbage that comes our way. You need to empower yourself by understanding the basics of mental health, the basics of emotions, so that everything you do, you are doing it to make yourself comfortable. You have to make yourself comfortable first. Before you begin worrying about other people's issues, you need to make sure your issues are being attended to. Because you might go out there trying to solve other people's issues, only to realize that you're not helping them solve their issues. You're doing something we call transference. You are actually joining them in combining the problems that you people have. If I am bitter about something and I meet you, you're bitter about something, what we are going to do is join forces, become a team, and become bitter together. So in the society, when you have friends who are suffering from issues, they are not having their issues solved, and you are spending a lot of time with them, you are getting into a risk of suffering from the same problems. You need to understand that. If you are in a company of friends who are irresponsible, people with bad morals, and you are spending time with them, you are comfortable being around them, you can be very sure one day, at some point, you will behave like them. So whatever they are doing, if it is going to add them into mental health complications, you are also a candidate. But let me say this clearly. Everybody who has a working brain, everybody who is alive today is a candidate for suicide, is a candidate for mental health complications. Because as we said in the beginning, mental health is health. The same way people go to see gynecologists, people go to see oncologists because of cancer issues. You go see a dentist because you have issues. Opticians and the rest of medical personnel is the same way you're supposed to go see a counselor or a psychiatrist because of mental health issues. So we need to be very clear with what we are doing. We need to be very clear with what we are saying, because anybody who has a working brain is a candidate for mental health complications. Because one thing for sure is you have a brain and it can get affected by anything. This minute you are so happy, something can happen in 2 seconds and you become suicidal. For last people who have survived suicide, we know you are not so strong for suicide. It can come and change everything in 2 seconds. So you need to keep yourself in check. You need to keep yourself in check. You need to make sure you are not doing anything to compromise your sanity. You need to make sure everything you're doing is only empowering you and not tampering with your mental health. One thing that we need to know as young people is drugs don't help. Violence doesn't help. Infidelity, unfaithfulness, and dishonesty in marriages and relationships doesn't help. All these issues contribute to something we call stress. And when stress is not addressed, gathers other issues and it ends up in depression. When you get into depression, there are two ways out. Two. You can either solve your issues through counseling, through therapy, and through help, or you kill yourself. Suicide. There are two issues, two exit plans for someone who is deep in depression. It is either you get help or you kill yourself. The second option is not the best, but it is the fastest. And that's why you see young people kill themselves right, left, center, because they haven't had anybody to help them. Why? Because the society is still so naive about mental health issues. When you look at the way people handle those people we find on the streets you call mad people, it will tell you the level of ignorance in the society. Because those people you call mad are just people with mental health complications. And if it was discovered earlier, it could not have gotten to that level. One thing that takes people to that level of psychosis that people call mad is use of drugs, use of illegal street drugs. And one of the worst abused drugs in this country is marijuana, weed. As young people, weed has become so popular. So when you combine weed with alcohol and with miraa, the outcome is definite. The outcome is definite. And you cannot tell me that you are so strong, you will not get affected like so and so. As a human being, our brain is a brain. So we need to understand that before you take those drugs, before you start taking those drugs, the consequences are clear. So if you can handle the consequences well and good, congratulations, go ahead and do drugs. But if you're not very sure about how to handle the consequences, don't do it. Don't do it. At this point, I don't know whether there are people with questions so that we don't spend the whole hour discussing this without uh, getting some questions from those people who are online. Leader Vijana?
Yes, people can ask questions. I think the person moderating is Irene.
Oh, okay.
Irene, so
Irene,
carry forward.
Lashoki, carry forward so that we have some direction from here.
All questions can be on the chat, or a person can raise their hand so that they can ask. But I want to ask a question.
Huh?
Nowadays we have this, maybe we have seen it on TV, this relationships that end up in one person killing the other person. Yeah. So I was asking myself, is it that nowadays people don't know their limits of, the relationship may lead to emotional torment or something? Is it that people don't know when their heart is broken, inawafanya pia waruke kichwa? Because that's something that, because I've been wondering where did it come to when we break up with somebody, it leads you to that extreme measure. So can you
what happens is I believe I touched on this earlier when we were starting. There is something we call relationships of convenience. Irene, we are not getting into a relationship because there is love. We are getting into a relationship because there is convenience, because someone is supporting the other one. Someone is expecting to get support from the other one. There is something you have seen in this human being that is making you feel like if you don't have them, you are not a human being. Men get attracted to beautiful ladies, and when beauty crowns your mind, you stop thinking. You start feeling. This is the problem. Someone is so toxic, but you cannot leave them because they are so beautiful. Someone is so toxic, so violent, but you cannot leave them because they are rich. There is that convenience, there is that expectation you have when you're getting into a relationship with someone. You already came with a budget. They have to fit in A, B, C, D. They have to do A, B, C, D. And because they haven't finished the business, I have to stick here. The other thing is, people are getting into relationships without direction, not even for convenience, without direction. You see someone, they look so attractive, you just want to have them. You have no idea what to do with them. So as you continue living together, you start making mistakes like human beings. But one person cannot accommodate some mistakes. Now you start getting into a friction. Or you came here expecting something, and then you realized it was not actually there. I was duped. You see, I was duped. Because there is something we call impression. When someone wants you, they can do anything to make sure they impress you. So when you realize that you got duped, you start getting angry. So this relationship is not bound by love, but by anger. Someone is here to revenge. You see? The other thing is, you're carrying baggage from a previous relationship that you never solved. Someone heartbroke you, and then you decided, I'll make sure I had to break someone else to get even. So you're coming here expecting to have to break someone. Kumbe, the person you're trying to have to break is also a ghost. Some people have no patience. Some people have no patience. So when you come and start playing around with them, they will not take it. We also have another issue of people ignoring red signs. The red flags, they are all over the place. Someone hasn't even married you, and they are starting to beat you up. They are starting to cut you off from your family, from your friends. They are starting to become controlling. Remember, there is a mental health disorder called narcissistic disorder. It's a personality disorder. There are some people who are naturally evil. People who enjoy seeing other people go through pain. When you get into the hands of such a human being and you ignore the red flags, you can be very sure the outcome is definite. The other issue is people don't want to ask for help, for guidance. For me, I've been married for 5 years. The woman I'm married to have been a friend of mine, have been in my life for 10 years now. So I'm in a combination of 10 years with someone. At this point, I have learned almost everything about them. But there is always that one thing that you don't know. That one thing that they do one day and you just realize, I didn't even know this part. I didn't know this part. So now you see, people start feeling like this is not the right person I had. I think I got duped. But these are issues that you can solve. But you can only solve them through guidance from someone who knows how to solve such issues. But now, you're meeting someone today, you start having sex tomorrow, 2 weeks later, you are living together. You have already committed your whole life to someone you barely know. You see, someone you barely know. So if you start making mistakes, this person might not understand you. This person might not even accept, because you didn't don't even know them. You don't even know them. Yeah, you don't know them. You just met a stranger. 2 months later, you are living together. The other part is you're dating someone and you know what you are doing is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. Because maybe this person is married or they're in a relationship with someone else. Maybe you know yourself, you are married or you are in a relationship with someone else. So what you are doing here is practicing infidelity. And for you to cover up your deeds, you have to use violence and intimidation to keep one person quiet. This other person will realize one day that you have actually been cheating on them with someone they know. This becomes trouble. So the issue of unfaithfulness is one of it. Number two, people are frustrated because they're struggling. They're struggling with social issues, with financial issues. They're struggling. So when you play around with someone who is already struggling, this is disaster. Because they are going to only solve the issue the best way they know how, through violence. I don't know whether I have answered the question you asked, but that's the direction. Irene.
Yes, you have answered it. Now we have other questions. Let me read it very quickly. You have two questions. The first question from Linda Vijana. Hello, Samson. Thank you very much for this talk. My question is, do you think that those people who try to run away from their natural identity, like changing their sexual orientation, could be suffering from mental illness? So that's the first question.
The shortest answer to that one is yes. This is a disturbed person, and we need to understand that identity crisis could also be taken as a sign of someone who is struggling. But now, this one could not be from depression or a mental health disorder. It could be from social issues. The way this person was raised, the way this person was brought up. Who brought this person up? What kind of environment did they come from? Who were their first friends when they were growing up? You see? Because there are people who are born medically with a crisis, identity crisis. Someone looks like a man, but they have female organs. We have seen those issues. Some kids are even born with both male and female genitals. And they have to go through some surgery at some point when they start identifying themselves with one gender. But when you see someone running away from that, which is already definite, they are trying to look like someone else, that is a person who is struggling here. So before the society condemns them, I think they need to sit with this person and listen to them, listen to what they have in their head that is pushing them to want to become the other gender. See? So it is part of mental health issues, and we can define it as identity crisis. The next question.
The next question comes from Vanessa. Hello, Samson. On the issues about men and mental health. How then can we change the perception of the grown-up men so that they can understand it's okay to cry and it's okay to talk out your issues and express emotions? So now she's asking about them that it is okay to cry and also express how they are feeling and their emotions.
And this is for grown-up men.
Yes.
Vanessa, thank you so much for this question. It is a question that comes up almost every time we have a mental health discussion, because we are in a society that is so toxic against men. You're not supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to express your feelings, because you're supposed to become a man. You're supposed to man up. There is no way you can tell your emotions to man up. So what we can do, Vanessa, here is the campaign we are running right now on Zoom need to have more men coming in. We need to pass this information to men. We need to have a conversation with them one-on-one. We don't have to come and tell them, we know you are suffering, you are struggling with, no. Just run it as an open and general mental health campaign, emotional awareness campaign. The brother you have at home, the husband or the boyfriend you have, the male colleague you have, all those men around you, make sure that you're having a conversation with them. And you start by letting them know that in case they have something to talk about, you are there. As the first person, you are there. Problem here. Are you trustworthy enough to keep secrets? That's the question. Are you trustworthy enough to be trusted with a secret? Because someone will come and tell you, I have been having a problem. I cannot approach a young girl and express my feelings. I am shy. I have been having a problem with masturbation. I have been having a problem with ABCD. Can you be able to keep such a secret? Because if you don't keep a secret, you better not listen to it. Because you can kill that person by just sharing a secret they gave you. If I tell you something right now, and then 2 weeks later I find it with the 13th person, bringing it back to me as gossip, they don't even know it came from me, I'm going to be heartbroken. And I will never trust people again. So you need to be trustworthy enough to keep a secret. That is where the issue is. You need to be trustworthy enough to keep a secret. So Vanessa, start talking to the male human beings around you. Start having a conversation with them. They will understand you. Let them know that you're there. Let them know that it has been done by other people. Let them understand that keeping those issues to themselves is actually hurting them more than talking about them. You don't have to tell them to cry. When you start having a conversation with them and become real, they are going to start crying. I have seen them cry. I have cried myself. You should have seen me the first day I went for counseling. Yeah, I know people cry until you become dry completely. You don't have to have someone tell you it is okay to cry. When they create an environment that is conducive for you to express your emotions, trust me, you will cry. So start talking to men around you, but start working on your trust. Be trustworthy and be responsible. When someone tells you something, they should never hear it from someone else. Next question, please.
Next question is from Zach. Zach has asked, solve the identity crisis. Identity crisis. How do you solve it now?
The identity crisis. It requires a lot of therapy. It requires a lot of training on behavior change. It requires a lot of dispute for against the misconceptions that this human being is having. 2 months ago, I was dealing with a young girl who was starting to train herself to become a tomboy. And she was actually chased away from school because of that. When the teachers realized she's starting to behave like a boy in a girls' high school, she was chased away. And I dealt with her. I had a conversation 3 days with her. 3 days. And the issues she told me are all misconceptions. So identity crisis needs a lot of talking and like minimal or zero level of judgmental. You don't judge this person based on what they're telling you or what they believe. You need to let them talk about it and express it out openly so that you can understand where they're coming from, so that you can start guiding them from there without judging them. So that one is very serious. You have to work around it without judging them. But the best way to deal with someone who is having an identity crisis is to get a counselor to them. We can do that because if you are not trained in counseling, you might not help them. You can actually make things worse. Next question.
Next question we have from Wanjiko B. Tips on how to maintain sanity amidst all the life pressures and day-to-day struggles. How does one keep?
Wajiko need to understand that there is nothing like enough in life. Life doesn't give you a chance to have enough of what you need. So start appreciating the little you have. You need to sit down with a pen and a paper and write the list of the problems you have in your life. Those issues that are causing you pressure. And then from them, allocate priority. Allocate priority. Start writing them in number 1, 2, 3, based on the level of priority. Of what you can right now. Understand there are things you cannot change. Appreciate the little you have now. We need to live in reality. Look at your expectations. Are they realistic? Look at the life you are living. Is it worth it? Look at your spendings. Are they worth it? See? Look at what you're doing and ask yourself, is this the best option I have? If life takes you down, you need to be very, very ready to adjust downward. When life takes us up, we are so fast to run up. But when things go down, we don't want to adjust downward. You must be ready to adjust downward. This is a personal choice. Wajiko, a personal choice. Day-to-day struggles will never end. They are there. And you need to understand that even the richest people in this world also struggle with something. All of us are having a battle of our own, only that we are not telling you. So you need to understand that everybody is struggling. So solve what you can. And in everything you do, guard your mental health. Don't let anything pressure you. Build the point whereby you lose your control. Next question.
From Linda Vijana. Hi, Samson. Could you kind of comment on the role of media in fueling mental health? The main media, news, social media, etc. The role of media and mental health.
If I'm getting this, maybe the one who the Vijana, okay, is the question on the negative impact of media on mental health or the positive one? Let's do both. The negative is the way the media reports issues to do with mental health is not light. It is because the people who are reporting it, one, they are not trained on mental health. Number two, they are reporting it in the best way they can to attract attention. Those are two issues. First, they are attracting attention. Second, they are not trained on how to deal with it. Because for me as a counselor, if you report to me that someone has committed suicide, the way I'm going to take that information is completely different from what a media personality will do with the same piece of information. If I have to come to the family and tell them, you know, your son who has been afraid of mine in a lobby has committed suicide, The way I'm going to report that to the family back in the village is completely different from what the media will say. That's when you see even there's some these backstreet media houses that learn online, some bloggers and people like that, taking photos of dead people, people who have been rescued from suicide, and exposing them. Especially social media these days. The other thing is the way the media reports tragic events like death, attacks, accidents. It's not right. They are just pressuring you into getting stressed, into getting traumatized. Because first, they are doing it the best way they can to attract attention. As I told you, to attract attention. Social media have no guidelines. People report whatever they want. Nobody cares. And we also have that element of always wanting to be the first one to break the news. If you saw social media around today, Facebook around saa tano saa sita, everybody wants to report that Rigathi Gachagua has been arrested. It has already been reported by more than 100,000 people. Why are you reporting breaking news? But because we want to have the share of the cake, I want to be part of those people who published the information. So I'm going to make myself look better so that it can attract more attention than the rest. So you end up creating a scenario that was not even there. See? On the positive side, media is also contributing to the awareness on mental health. Because personally, like me, I've been on TV for over 15 times in the last 1.5 years. Talking about what I'm doing now. They are giving me a platform to actually speak to hundreds and thousands of people. Social media has come. If you go to my Facebook page, every day I'm speaking to people I don't even know. So social media and the mainstream media are also giving us an opportunity to pass this life-saving information. So as much as media and whatever is also playing a negative role, at some point they are also contributing to the positive in giving us, the people who have the information, a platform to actually disseminate that information to the public. Let's go next.
So the next one, okay, it's a comment from Catherine. I've read your book, The Battle.
Yeah. Catherine and Jay, yeah, true.
Just a comment.
Yeah, we're doing for the don't worry, don't worry. I'm working on that one. I'm actually working on that one. I know I'm a bit late, but I should have had the next book. But I'm working on that one. I'm actually working on that one for sure. I want to address these issues in writing so that when you read that book can communicate something to you. It can communicate something to you. And before the end of this video, I'm going to display that copy. I believe I have a copy around here. I'm going to show you what Catherine is talking about. Let's have the next question, please.
The next question from Linda Vijana again. Do you think there is a parenting gap in that could be furthering this crisis about the mental health? There are parenting gap.
Do you think there is a parenting gap that could be furthering the crisis? Yeah. Yes, true. There is. Actually, the biggest problem we have is our backyard, where we come from. Because you see, the biggest pressure comes from the people who relate with you, who relate to you very close, from your parents, from your siblings. The biggest condemnation comes from these people. You see? When these people have an idea of what they want you to become, they have the authority to push you to become. And when you don't get there, they also have the authority to condemn you. So parenting gap is there. And especially in the generation of people who have kids, my son and my daughter, those kids of below 10 years, we need to be very careful because we are trying to prove that we can give these kids better life than what we got ourselves. And doing so, you even encourage bad behavior. You encourage bad behavior in these kids. You do not discipline them. You let them decide what they want. And because they are kids, they are going to gather any kind of garbage the society can offer. So as a parent, as a guardian, as a relative, it is our responsibility to make sure that these children understand what they are supposed to understand. They need to understand what they are supposed to understand. You see, what they are supposed to understand is exactly what they are getting. What is right is only what we are giving them. Because when you look at the rate in which young people are getting into drug and crime, it can tell you the society has relaxed in terms of discipline and awareness on good behavior. When we were growing up, you could see someone condemning your bad behavior, even if they are not related to you. A neighbor, a stranger from somewhere, spots you misbehaving. They could even drag you home to your parents and report so that you can be beaten up. The society was sober those days. But these days, even your own children, you are not disciplining them because it is the generation of Baba, Mama, and the disaster is out there. You have seen children, and I even believe, was it today? I think even today in Muranga, there are some kids who had an accident driving a vehicle they had taken from home and they killed some women somewhere. It was reported somewhere. We have seen a generation of teenagers are dying in road accidents driving their parents' vehicles because we want to give them the best. And the best, according to our understanding, includes giving them unnecessary freedom. You saw the case of the young boy who was driving a Prado. Someone recorded the video. Kenyans made a lot of noise. The next day, the father was arrested and arraigned in court. This is around 8, 9 years old, and he is roaming around the highways in a Prado because the father wants to give this kid the best. This is a parenting gap. If you can have the energy to allow your son to roam around Thika Road and other major highways in a vehicle, illegally driving, what else can you discipline them for? Can you even tell them when they go wrong? The answer is no. Parenting gap. So yes, the society is furthering the crisis by trying to pretend that we are trying to offer the best to our children, trying to become more civilized. When we were growing up, we were forced to go to church. You could never argue with your parent about going to school, going to church. But these days you find the father is a Catholic, the mother is a Muslim, the kids are going to the IPC somewhere. One of them is a drunkard, nobody cares. There is that disconnect in the families. Things are done the way people want because we don't want to have a crisis. But in the real sense, we are actually fueling a crisis. Let's go to the next question.
The next question from Vanessa. Add on the issue of Linda Vijana Initiative, do you think parentage also has a contribution to a child's state of mind? If so, how can it tackle this?
Do you think the parentage also has a contribution to a sound state of mind? Yes. You know, if you look at children who grow up in a family where there is domestic violence, these kids end up depressed, frustrated, and they get into a crisis. The child's state of mind is built based on the environment where this child is growing up. If a child is growing up in a society where there is crime, go to the slums, you will see that most of these children end up in crime. If a boy is growing up in a society whereby men are drunkards, chances are this boy is going to end up like them. Because grown-ups are natural role models to children. So if a house is full of chaos, if a house is full of drugs, disagreements and arguments, this child is inheriting the same. If you look at men who grow up in families where there is domestic violence, most of them end up divorcing their wives even when they get married, because the only way they know how to solve issues is violence. And if they don't want to inherit violence, they have to disconnect themselves from the family. So you find that this person is solitary, they are living alone. They don't even care anymore about the family where they come from, because they are not comfortable there. They have understood that where they come from is not conducive, and they are trying to create a path of their own. So the state of mind of a child is created by the environment where they are growing up. We need to understand this. So for us who have children, you have to be very careful what you do around your children, what you say, the way you say it, because these children are taking you as a natural role model. And if my father is doing it, why not me? If you are smoking cigarettes as a father or as a mother, there is no way you can tell your son smoking is bad. No way. If you are insulting each other as father and mother in the house, there is no way you will discipline your son when they insult or beat other kids in school, because the state of mind in children is created and nurtured by the environment where they grew up. For me, as a person who was born in central Kenya, if I take my daughter who is now 8 months old to someone in Garissa, because now she doesn't know how to speak, the day she will start speaking, she will speak Somali language. If I take her to the rural land, she will speak rural. Why? Because her mind is being nurtured, her behavior is being nurtured, even the language is being nurtured by the environment where they are in. Not how they were born, but how they are being brought up. So the parenting issues are also contributing to the crisis. Do you have another question?
No, I don't have a question. But if there's still other questions, you can always forward it to me, or Linda Vijana, Paul can post our website. We have a place where you can send your questions to email, and you can forward it. I think we can, since we don't have any other questions from now, we can wind up.
So give me a minute to give my identity to the chat, so that if someone wants to follow up and maybe ask a question or maybe ask for help, they can get that. I'm writing on the chat room. My name is Meshach Samson Maina. If you go to Facebook, you can get that name. We don't have two accounts with that name. It's only one, and it's mine. And from there, you can get everything else, including my YouTube channels and whatever. But I'm going to write my contacts. Yeah, his number is 0723-783-680. If someone wants to call, you can call that number. And then before we go, I want you to see. The videos are inverted. It's okay. Can you see this? This is the book Nani Catherine was saying she has read. It's a book written by myself, Meshach Samson. The video is inverted somehow. I don't know how, but it's a book I have written. It has one chapter about my life, where I came from before I became the Meshach Samson who is hosting events. My struggle with mental health issues is in chapter 1 of this book. And this book is 124 pages, pure mental health content. It has been on sale for 3 months now, and each copy is 1,000 bob. So if you would like to have a copy of this book, the number is in the chat room. You can get to Facebook or wherever you can be able to access me. We can talk about it. That's the book. See? So thank you so much for even allowing me to have this talk this evening. I really appreciate this because it doesn't come from nowhere. It shows that you appreciate and you like what I do. Thank you so much and God bless you. Irene, back to you.
Thank you very much. I see on chats, most of them are thank you for the great talk from Catherine. Linda Vijana has posted our email in the website where you can ask questions. But thank you very much for the presentation. We hope to have you more and more. Vanessa, Samson, it was an awesome session. Happy to be here. And Catherine,